Like and subscribe to Gillygabyte.
Game on, everybody, and welcome to another video. So if you guys didn't know, Orcust is one of my favorite decks of all time. I've been playing the deck since Soul Fusion, and I've been really wanting to play it recently, and I've been through many different iterations of the deck, and I think I actually found my favorite build of all time. This version is by far the most fun I've ever had piloting the deck since Harp Horror was banned. I'm honestly waiting for the day for Harp to come back, and if it ever comes back to one, this deck will just be so much better. But let me go ahead and show you guys what I have cooked up, and let's get started. Because this is an Orcust deck profile, let's go ahead and get started with that section. I play 3 Girsu, the Orcust Mekk-Knight, a must-have of the deck. Arguably, you may be able to play 2, but that's almost pretty sacrilegious in this strategy, or at least for the Orcust cards in general. But this card will enable you to go into Orcust combo to set up either your Omni Negate with a Link monster or search your field spell. Very basic stuff, and you guys are interested in the combos, keep watching all the way until the end, and then you'll be able to check it out. Next, I also play 2 Orcust Knightmares. I really wanted to play 3, but because of the way it's technically more of a brick, and I was trying to also cut down on the deck to essentially play more play starters, but 2 felt pretty good in my play testing. There's also a way for this to get into the graveyard depending on the hand, but I didn't want it to be too situational. I also play 1 Orcust Cymbal Skeleton, 1 Orcust Brass Bombard, and the honorary Orcust monster, 1 World Legacy World Wand. This essentially is just the core of the Orcust cards, or at least the monsters anyways, to get the whole graveyard recursion and engine rolling. Keeping in theme, I'm also going to now continue with the rest of the Orcust cards. Of course, we play the 1 Orcustrated Babel, 1 Orcustrated Return. This card says draw 2. It's pretty good in my opinion, and it could really help with some situational hands, but overall, maybe it's even cuttable. And 1 Orcust Crescendo. I kind of even want to play 2 of these just because that really sets me up for the grind game. I thought about changing Crescendo for an Orcustrated Return, just doubling down on this with no returns, but I like the flexibility so far and I haven't quite decided on it, but just something to keep in mind. Moving on to the next engine, we play 3 Water Enchantress of the Temple. I was wondering, since, you know, everybody plays this strategy, or this engine anyways, and I was like, how can I incorporate this with Orcust? And it actually works out really well, and it kind of enables like the whole graveyard strategy as well, especially if you end up opening Orcust Knightmare and then you can pitch it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You guys will see the combos later. So I also do play the Wandering Griffin Rider, 3 Rite of Aramesir, 1 Fateful Adventure, and 1 Dracoback the Rideable Dragon. Of course, you guys already know this is pretty standard for the Adventure engine. Some people call it the Brave engine, and it just works really well. It's like you kind of have to play this format, unfortunately, and I was actually surprised on how well the synergy was with this engine and the Orcust cards. And then on to the final engines, we play 2 Rokket Tracers, 1 Rokket Caliber, this card was insane, 1 Rokket Recharger, 1 Boot Sector Launch, 3 Quick Launch. Did you guys know this isn't once per turn? Yeah, so going back to it, I kind of glossed over this, but basically I do play the Rokket engine. So we have B for Brave Adventure, R for Rockets, and O for Orcust. And going through it, Rockets enable the graveyard strategy because you can go into a level 8 synchro, which I'll get into later, and then that can enable your graveyard strategy, which also synergizes with the Orcust cards and the Adventurer cards because you can banish them for effect, and then you can end up special summoning your Girsu through other different ways. And this strategy is just so fun, and I highly suggest you try it out. I'm gonna go ahead and go over the rest of the singles. Wrapping up our extra one-ofs, we have Gizmek Orochi, the Serpentron Sky Slasher. Standard in Orcust builds, I feel like people are cutting it, but it'll make more sense why I'm definitely playing it with my strategy. It just enables so much, and you know, banishing 8 after you've like turned your whole engine online, this really puts an onboard presence and pressure, and it's just really good. I wouldn't want to cut it. Newly off the ban list, we also play 1 Fairy Tale Snow. This card was so awesome. I don't know why it was unbanned, but I'm happy that it's unbanned because it just has so much like playability to banish your Orcust cards, and then you can use your Link Orcust monsters to shuffle them back. You can banish a Dingirsu and then end up shuffling it back with your Link monsters if you end up get an opportunity to do something like that. This card is a extra body just by banishing 7 cards, and it can really help you link climb. This card is great, just fantastic. It's also a level 4. You can use that with the Rokket tuners to go into a Synchro 8 play. Great card. I also do play 1 Monster Reborn. This card has overperformed. It was like stuck to my hand. Every time I would shuffle, it would just be always in my opener. And every time I've had it, I just always just consciously pitched Girsu, played Monster Reborn, brought it back, go full Orcust combo, and it was just beautiful. And because it's a graveyard strategy, we play 1 Foolish Burial. This turns on your Orcust engine. This turns on your Adventurer token engine. This can send Gizmek, Fairy Tale Snow. The list goes on. It's great. And because it's technically a combo-ish build, I would consider this a mid-range build. You'll see why in a second, but I play 1 Called by the Grave. For my hand traps of choice, we play 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, a staple in any format, in my opinion. A little underperforming as of lately in this format, but you kind of just need to play it. A real MVP this format is 3 Ghost Ogre. I like this card a lot. It kind of really messes up a lot of boards, and if timed perfectly, you can really punish your opponent. And one of my favorite hand traps, 3 Nibiru the Primal Being. I really wanted to play maybe like Effect Failure or Imperm, probably Effect Failure because of you'll see of cards in later, but I really like the interaction of where you can activate Nibiru on your opponent's 5th summon, and if you have the field spell up for Orcust, you can lock yourself into dark by banishing an Orcust monster, and this will result in tributing the whole field, and then Nibiru will that's as far as Nibiru will resolve without effect in a way, because the whole board gets obliterated and you don't special summon Nibiru or the token. Nibiru stays in your hand because it's a light monster and you got locked into darks in the previous chain. Awesome tech. I think this is like one of the best hand traps for Orcust. Onto the extra deck. I wanted to play 3 of these, I really did, but I had to settle for 2, so I'm playing 2 Galateas. Trust me, if I can play a 3rd copy, I would. 1 Longirsu, the Orcust Orcustrator. This card has its niches, and it helps me link climb and just kind of refill my graveyard and really set myself for follow-up. It also has the whole sending effect based off the monster it points to on your opponent's side of the field. Situational, you need to play at least 1 though. And who else could forget, we play 2 Dingirsus, the Orcust of the Evening Star. This card is fantastic. Overlay it over your Orcust Link monster and either send your opponent's monster away, protect your whole field. Great card. Onto the synchro cards, I play 1 Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. This card is insane. It basically will be able to excavate the top 5 cards of your deck. We play mostly light and dark, mostly dark of course, and the whole strategy is either to search a starter and mill the rest of your graveyard enablers into the graveyard, or even maybe like add a hand trap in the sense of like Nibiru or Ghost Ogre or in the side deck. You'll see that stuff later, but if you don't have the Orcust engine online and you're really trying to dig into it, you make this card. Otherwise, you make Borreload Savage Dragon. So reminder that Orcust Knightmare is a level 7 and Brass Bombard is a level 1. You can synchro into a level 8 and then you can make either one of those 2 monsters. And if you already kind of have like the Orcust engine online, you can go into Borreload Savage Dragon and end on 3 negates rather than 2. But you'll see that kind of strategy within my combos that I display. Because we are playing the Adventurer engine and Nibiru is a card, we play 1 Link Spider, just so then that way we can go ahead and get an effect monster on field to basically link climb. It's a must if you're playing the Adventurer engine. Speaking of must, because we're playing the Rokket engine, you need to play 1 Striker Dragon. This basically guarantees you, unless you get hand trapped of course, a way to your level 8 Synchro monster to basically facilitate your graveyard strategies or whatever, maybe like get the Adventurer engine online. And great card. I'm happy that it's limited to 1 because I still get to use it. I also play 1 Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh is here for the Girsu effect because the tokens are level 1 off of Girsu's effect. One time I did end up using Girsu as a tuner because I had summoned a token in one of the extra Monster Zone columns, and then Linkuriboh in the same column, and Girsu was in that same column, and then I was able to quick launch into one of the Rokket Recharger, and then I synchroed into 8. It was fantastic. Super, super cool stuff. This deck has a lot of like flexibility in plays. So Link Rebos here for the Girsu token effect. Onto the Link 2s, I play Dark, the Dark Charmer Gloomy. This card has overperformed. It's helped me do some crazy Link climbing. It's let me take in my opponent's DPE, and I also had a Gizmek Orochi on field, and I was able to overlay into a hard-made Dingirsu, and I was just like, yeah, you're not getting your DPE back at all. It was fantastic. This card overperforms. Highly recommend you play this card. I, of course, have to play the one IP Masquerena. This is part of the typical, like, Link 2 climb and then Orcust churn, make Nightmare Unicorn because you're reborning so many cards, causing so much interruption. So I already kind of spoiled the next card, so we'll go ahead and move on to there. So I do play one Nightmare Unicorn. This card is great for the spin back effect. I would definitely recommend playing it because whenever you see an IP Masquerena, if you can fit an IP Masquerena, see if you can fit a Nightmare Unicorn. Very great card overall. And for my Link 4 of choice, I play one Borrelsword Dragon. This card helps me end games. It's kind of there for that Link climb, and then, you know, it ends games. It's really, really good. On top of that, I also do play one Topological Zeraboros. This card is insanely enabled with Gizmek Orochi and Fairy Tale Snow. It basically will just blow up the whole board, and your opponent kind of has to deal with this every standby phase when this gets, you know, resummoned back. Super, super awesome card. I highly recommend you play this. If you were to play like any of the Topologic cards, this is definitely one of the best ones. It can be greatly like abused within the strategy and just always recurring. Fantastic. Onto the side deck, I do play 3 Psyframe Gear Gammas. This card is just basically the best hand trap of the format, but you can't like really main deck it. It's kind of weird. I like it, but it's always been a much better side card. It might change though based off the format. If you can fit this in your main deck, play it. I just didn't want to risk too many bricks against like a potential strategy that might matter. So because I do play the 3 Psyframe Gear Gamma, I of course play the 1 Psyframe Driver, standard, right? I also play 2 Artifact Lancia. This card is pretty good because it helps prevent a lot of banishing strategies. It can hurt the Orcust strategy though, so make sure you kind of play it accordingly and kind of weigh your options to ensure that you're still able to use your Orcust effects. I also play 2 Token Collectors in the side. Great card. I would like to fit 3. I feel like this is a really strong card. I'm just hoping that you know, everything's just really tight, and I just wanted to fit at least 2. It's not really like super searchable, but I like the utility of it, like the hand trap diversification. It was either like play 3 Token Collectors, maybe cut the drivers and gammas package, play like 3 Token Collectors, 3 Lancias. I mean, your mileage may vary, but I feel like this is fine. Like 2 Token Collectors, yeah, pretty good. Especially if you mill it off of like the synchro strategy, you can just, you know, bring it back. So that's why I was like, weigh my options. Anyways, pretty standard. I play 1 Harpy's Feather Duster in the side. You never know when you come against back row heavy strategy. Speaking of back row heavy strategy, I also play 1 Red Reboot. You never know if you come across a trap strategy. If you're not really, like, traps are not that great this format, but you still got to respect it. That's why I always like to keep like back row removal kind of strategies. Otherwise you just like hard lose, and that's no good. I also play 2 Infinite Impermanences in the side. I really wanted to play 3, but the side deck is just so tight. I didn't want to clog the main deck either with extra cards. I just want to try to boost the consistency as possible. Infinite Impermanence, you might even want to prefer to play Effect Veiler over this. It's just that since it's, if you main deck like a card that synergizes with the engine, so like if I were to like choose main deck Veiler or Impermanence, I would go main deck Veiler because it works with the strategy better, because I can like search it, I can use the Chaos Ruler effect to like banish a light in the dark to reborn it. So there's that application, but the reason why I'm playing Impermanence in the side is because essentially if I'm deciding to play Impermanence, I'm probably going first, and I can at least set it, or if I'm playing second, I can still activate it during like my first go of my turn and like turn off something, and that's why I weighed the option. So Impermanence feels better in the side, but if I were main decking Impermanence or Veiler, I would pick Veiler. Hope that makes sense. And hands down, one of the strongest cards in this format is I play 3 evenly match. Everybody's leaving tokens on the field. You evenly match. Opponents cannot, or technically players cannot, banish face down tokens. They are forced to pick everything else. Tokens must stay on the field. Just obliterates their whole board. Fantastic card. And you know, this deck can just continuously grind. That's what Orcust does. So, you know, at the risk of losing one battle phase going second and then just closing out the game, like grinding it out all the way through, you can basically win from that advantage point. So that covers the deck profile portion of this video. Now you guys can see why I call it the BRO strategy, because bro, it's the best deck, right? Up next, we have the combo section. I just want to reiterate that these are just very basic lines of plays, and this deck has so many different like lines to kind of go down, and you just really have to weigh your options. So I'm just going to show the very bare minimum combos that this deck can do, along with some test hands, so you guys can get a feel for the whole deck and how it plays out. So I wanted to make sure I showcased to you guys at least the bare minimum combos for each different strategy. Just remember when you guys are resolving your effects to follow the BRO line of play. B as in brave, start with brave stuff if possible. R for rocket, then go into your Orcust line as the final stuff. If you do manage to open the brave strategy and the Orcust strategy within the same hand, well then you do have to go ahead and make a decision on which one you would like to go ahead and follow through with. If you're able to go ahead and special summon the Orcust strategy, so then that way you can do the Girsu plays. It all just kind of depends on the hand and if you can make things happen. But for my reasonings, I always go with the B, then R, then O. So let's go ahead and just show you the basic combo. If you don't already know this is great just to learn. Otherwise, just you can maybe skip this, but I highly recommend you just watch it anyways. So we basically have the Aquamancer. You banish to get the spell card, you activate the spell card, get a token, and also place the continuous card. From here, you basically go ahead and you have to discard one card, and that could be amazing for follow-up. You can discard an Orcust card to basically get that engine rolling. And from there, you get the Wandering Gryphon Rider, you special summon it, and then now you have that Omni Negate to go ahead and follow through with your Rokket or Orcust cards. I'm just going to go ahead and let that finish up. This will get you the equip card that you would then put on the token for a free bounce. And that is the bare minimum adventurer / brave engine as far as that goes. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you the Rokket related stuff. This is basically just one card combos with Rokket Tracer, and the line of play is basically you're going to normal Rokket Tracer, go ahead and make Striker Dragon, get Boot Sector Launch, activate the effect of Striker Dragon, add Rokket Tracer back to hand, Boot Sector Launch to special summon Rokket Tracer effect, pop the field spell, and then you special summon Rokket Recharger from the deck, and then now you have a level 4 tuner and non-tuner, which allows you to go into one of 2 different boss monsters, and depending on what you decide to go into will really kind of vary your mileage. So you'll see that I went into a Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, and this is essentially just so then that way when we activate its effect on summon, we can excavate the top 5 of our cards from our deck, and then we can add 1 light or dark from our deck to our hand and then mill the rest to the graveyard. And this is really great as it can potentially enable the Orcust strategy and really get that snowballing. Or you could even hit Water Enchantress and then get the Omni Negate live, and then depending on how you play, your mileage may vary. If you wanted to go ahead and if you already have like the Orcust combo kind of all set up, you can go ahead and do as what I mentioned previously and just go into Savage Dragon. So this is basically the same combo over again if you want to watch through this, but going step by step, this will eventually get you into Borreload Savage Dragon, equipping the Striker Dragon as an Omni Negate for Borreload Savage Dragon. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Orcust strategy, this is essentially what you can do to go ahead and just either set up as like your counter trap up. So normal summon Girsu, the best normal summon within the deck, to be honest, as it basically enables the whole Orcust engine to be live. You would send the Orcust Knightmare target Girsu, send the World Wand, banish to special summon Nightmare, and then you would go into the Link 2, activate Galatea's effect to shuffle back the World Wand, and then set your negate. When a spell, trap, or monster effect is activated, and you control an Orcust Link monster, you can negate that activation. If you do, banish that card. So really great interruption, and basically the bare minimum. And on the follow-up, we can basically just kind of obliterate the opponent. Kind of also, this is great for outgrinding. I really want to play Crescendo to 2, but I don't necessarily think it's necessary with so many different negates within the deck, but it's something I definitely consider because it really enables the grind game for the strategy. Here's another basic combo, honestly the better combo, because this one you'll see the line of play where I actually activate Girsu, and twice where it's like it makes the tokens, and then you go into Link Karibo. From there you go into Galatea, and then you just do the previous combo as mentioned or as shown before, but this one I actually end on the field spell, and if I can catch it at the right time. Yeah, so I personally really enjoy going for this field spell, especially as like a follow-up play, because I'm not even done here. I can go into like Dingirsu and then go back into another like Galatea, or even go into a Link 3 long Girsu. It's definitely not super ideal, like it's just showing you the combo line, but based off your opening hand you're able to do or like basically go into different strategies from the extra deck. This just kind of gives you a free Link 3, and depending on how you set up your graveyard, or like based off your other hands and other extenders, you can really go into some crazy extra deck monsters. So in this example, this is basically, what if I open 3 different strategies, all 3 of the different engines in one hand? How far can this get me? I'm going to go ahead and just kind of showcase that to you guys. I'm going to start with quick launch here, get the Rokket Caliber, and I showed Rokket Caliber as an example for this combo only because, like, since I have Girsu, I want to go into Rokket Caliber, so then that way I can normal summon Girsu and then activate the effect to mill and get the tokens live. So then that way I can get the Water Enchantress up. Otherwise, I would go for Rokket Tracer and then just go into the Striker Dragon combo, and then hopefully get lucky with the mill of the different cards from the deck to the, and then that can even search me like a hand trap. So there's different lines of play, but I wanted to showcase getting Rokket Caliber from quick launch because I opened Girsu. That's pretty important. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and go Girsu effect, do the whole dump and summon tokens. Link Karibo, go into Galatea, now go into the Water Enchantress line, special summon that token, Fateful Adventure, get the Gryphon Rider, special summon. Now I have 1 negate, now I have the 1 disruption. Now I'm going to finish up with the Orcust line, shuffle back World Wand, set Crescendo, go into Dingirsu, send the token away, go back into a Galatea, and then that's just me equipping the spell card, so then that way you can see that it's equipable, I guess. But this is 2 Omni Negates, and if I can see the graveyard, 1 second. So the graveyard is also has the Orcust Knightmare within it, so I have that engine going. So arguably I could have gone for the field spell to maximize my interruptions, but this is just kind of like one of 2 scenarios that you can go into. You could either go into the trap and set up like 2 Omni Negates, or you can go ahead and go into the field spell and kind of just, interrupt your opponent during their turn to maximize like your plays. And the whole goal is just kind of like, it's honestly like really fun to also do. Like, I always like the field spell because it gives me much more interaction with the opponent. You can, send, because you have the Orcust Knightmare within the graveyard, you can banish it, target one of your monsters, and then send Cymbal Skeleton, and then reborn your Dingirsu. Or there's so many different cards you could have gone into as well within the extra deck. I just kind of wanted to show that like it's not as bricky as it seems. There's so many different like lines of play, and the way that I've just made the deck, it really just allows you to go through. And I know these are all just kind of like what if situations. I wanted to go ahead and showcase to you guys next my test hands that I just go ahead and just randomized and just have for you guys. So I'll get that up for you guys right now. So this is test hand number 1. I have quick launch, Rokket Recharger, Crescendo, Girsu, and Rite of Aramesir. And this one I went with, we start with the B, go ahead and get my Omni Negate all set up. And then what's great about that is that I was like, I bet I could send Girsu and then reborn him later in the combo. So that was the line of thinking why I sent him, why I just didn't normal summon him right out. So quick launch gets me Rokket Tracer. As I mentioned before, if you like, because I open Rokket Recharger, so what am I going to do here? Well, you know, Boot Sector Launch allows me to special summon up to 2 different Rokket monsters in my hand, or 2 different Rokket monsters with different names from my hand to the field. And then I went ahead and special summoned the Chaos Ruler, and I was hoping to get really lucky and hit a Brass Bombard. And here's the top 5 that I hit. So Fairy Tale Snow, Brass Bombard, Skeleton, Tracer, and Reborn. This was all shuffled. I swear I'm not like lying to you guys. Of course, with the Brass Bombard and the Skeleton all at 1. I guess I wasn't trying to hit the Brass Bombard. I meant to say Skeleton. But let's go ahead and let the replay keep playing. I added the Fairy Tale Snow because it's a light. And then now I have the whole Orcust line coming through. Girsu special summon effect, mill, and then here's the whole Orcust line now. Yeah, so I believe I went with the field spell here because I have the Nightmare follow up, and then I'm basically gonna go in, like I have all the Orcust monsters in here, and I felt like that was much more disruption. And I also had the 1 Crescendo. It'd be insane though if I ended up getting like 2 and I can mill the Crescendo and just like search for an extender or like an Orcust piece for normal summon for the follow up on the next turn. But like this deck is amazing. I love it. I've enjoyed playing with it. And let's go ahead and just showcase another test hand. So this one was like a randomized test hand right off the back again. I really was testing really late night, and I was just, after making the first part of the video, I was extremely exhausted, but it's kind of going through a very similar line depending on what I just opened up. But I honestly rarely ever bricked with this strategy. So I'm just going to let this play to kind of show you guys a proof of concept that like this deck has like a lot of crazy plays. The engines all just kind of really work together, and as long as you manage to special summon different strategies out, like it's all very possible to kind of get what you're trying to do for the strategy to like outgrind your opponent, set up the board, play on their turn, interrupt them. But this is honestly like one of the most fun times I've ever had playing with Orcust, and I highly recommend you guys try it out. Went for the field spell here because I ended up milling off the graveyard or Crescendo. That's why I kind of wanted to play 2, because like very niche instances like that could happen. But I ended up setting up for IP Masquerena, normal summon the Rokket Tracer, and then there's so many other cool things that I could have done here. I could have synchro summoned if I didn't end up going into the Orcust line. I just didn't see it in part of this strategy, or while I was doing it. But I guess my line of thinking when I was showcasing this is that I went into IP Masquerena, normal summon Rokket Tracer, and then I can go into my extra deck, my different strategies as far as like go into Nightmare Unicorn, or even like a Zeraboros, or just a whole bunch of different strategies, because I had Orcust Knightmare in the graveyard too, where I can basically banish Orcust Knightmare, target one of my monsters, and then send Gizmek Orochi, and then Gizmek Orochi completely nuke the board. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm out of here.